So if you're a Twitter user, you're probably seeing a lot of great wins at the moment. Thank you, Elon Musk, for making Twitter great again. But don't forget, we just can't get complacent. We got to keep perspective on the wins and losses. This in information. This is an information battle for free speech and free information and free thinking, basically. So while we're celebrating a Twitter reset, meanwhile, PayPal has gone back and reinstated its $2,500 fine for misinformation. So they can basically, they can now, if you've signed their terms and conditions, they can now take $2,500 from your account. They're not going to send you a fine. They're just going to take it out of your account if they deem something that you posted as misinformation. So if we're not paying attention, we may think that we've got a win. I sure thought we had a win last time when PayPal went back and didn't do that. Now they've done it again, but they've done it quietly. And this is very similar to this is an same example as what I want to talk about this main topic. In August, so many of us were relieved when the Department of Homeland Security went back and scrapped its disinformation board. What we didn't realize was that they just kept going with the same program, the same strategies, just different tactics. So we've got to keep our sights on what's happening, because while we see a win on the surface here for freedom or free information, free speech, what's going on behind is that those people that are strategizing to stop those things for us, they keep going and they do it in other ways. So we really have to pay attention. So who are the they? I get asked that question a lot, for my opinion anyway. Let's call them the big three: big gov, big tech, big media. All together, really, they're big money. You can put the banks in there too. You can put the Federal Reserve in there too. They're all big money working together for that. And what have they created? They've created a big wall. We are facing a big media wall created by the big three. And this is controlling information. It's separating us. It's dividing us. Some of you have known that for a long time. Others of you may be just making those connections. But let's talk about this and let's see what we can do about it. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching the Today with Kay show, and I'm Kay Rubacek. How is your coffee supply? Is your coffee really 100% organic and roasted right here in the USA? Freedom First Coffee is. It's a gourmet coffee roasted in Victorian-era roasters in the heartland of the US. Their tagline is, tastes like freedom. I don't know what flavor freedom really is for you, but I can say that it tastes great, and I do drink it myself. So why don't you give it a try? Go to freedomfirstcoffee.com and use the promo code K, that's K-A-Y, for a discount, and to support this show. I like to say we vote with our dollars, so buying your coffee from Freedom First Coffee is a delicious way to vote for freedom. And if you already have your own favorite coffee, don't worry, because you can buy me a virtual coffee. Go to my website, krubacek.com. That's RUBACEK.com. Click on Coffee with K. You can buy me a virtual coffee to help keep this show going, support independent creators like myself. Every coffee counts, and I promise I will drink one and think of you. So The Intercept put out an absolutely amazing report this week. And if you're familiar with that media outlet, they're fairly liberal. There are a lot of people with brains and a lot of people still using them. So don't get stuck in your bubble. Look at what The Intercept put out. Leaked documents outlining the DHS, Department of Homeland Security's plans to police disinformation. Just a quick reminder, what is the Department of Homeland Security's mission? This is important. We need to remember because, I was thinking, what does the DHS actually do? What are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to be the disinformation police or the information police? This is the Department of Homeland Security. With honor and integrity, we will safeguard the American people, our homeland, and our values. The DHS is committed to relentless resilience, to preventing future attacks It was started after the attacks on September 11th. Responding decisively to natural and man-made disasters, advancing American prosperity and economic security. You've really got to wonder what DHS is doing when this is their mandate. Take a look at their strategic plans here. Counterterrorism and homeland security threats. Okay. Securing US borders. They're not doing a good job. Anyone can see that pretty plainly. I've been to the border myself. I can say that absolutely from my own investigations. Securing cyberspace and critical infrastructure, preserving and upholding the nation's prosperity and economic security, strengthening preparedness and resilience for national, I'm assuming that's for national disaster. So that's the DHS mandate. So when you look at the Intercept's report, you can look at it through that framework. What is the DHS supposed to do and what are they actually doing? So this was put out just at the end of last week. So the DHS earlier this year wanted to create their Disinformation Governance Board, which you're thinking, why are they having a Disinformation Governance Board when they're supposed to be protecting us against terrorism? And here they're policing misinformation, malinformation and disinformation. They did close their Disinformation Governance Board. That happened in August. But they continued basically with the same strategy. So here, behind closed doors and through pressure on private platforms, tech platforms, the US government has used its power to try to shape online discourse. The tech platforms have gone along with this. So you can see Microsoft executive Matt Masterson says here, platforms have to get comfortable with government. They're targeting things like COVID pandemic, efficacy of the vaccines, racial injustice, US withdrawal from Afghanistan, and the nature of US support for Ukraine. They've got a special portal with Facebook. Now, that's what the Intercept has been able to find out. I really believe, based on my prior research to this, it's actually a lot deeper than this, but this is an excellent, excellent expose on what information they could get. There has been a formalized process for government officials to directly flag content on Facebook or Instagram. So the government is directly working with social media. Now, a lot of you probably knew that or suspected that, but you couldn't talk about it before, perhaps because people might have thought you were, a conspiracy theorist or something. Well, now, if you click on this link here, special Facebook portal takes you to the Facebook content request system, government reporting system. So it even shows you how the government was working with Facebook. If you've been banned on Facebook, you know what it feels like. You know how this works. I like this one comic by Ben Garrison, Creating a Monster, It's Alive. That's the reality of it, isn't it? Big government censorship. And it's big government censorship, remember, working with big tech and working with big media, because these narratives, we know that the media has put out false narratives. Where are they coming from? When you realize that the government has been working with social media platforms, then you realize they're also working with mainstream media platforms, such as print and television. So what this Intercept report does, this expose, it really just verifies so much of what we felt was happening or we had seen happening before in other ways, but didn't know how to explain it. So this is an awesome tool that you can use. You can really use this Intercept report to show to friends and family, with rationality and facts and coolness, we can stay calm with this. You can really use that. Look, there are so many things that the media have put out, like Russian collusion, that was proven to be a false narrative, but mainstream media is not correcting their misinformation that they put out. And those who were trying to get the truth out have been called the ones pushing the misinformation. The COVID lab leak, so-called conspiracy theory, was proved to not be a conspiracy theory, but certainly no apologies have come forward from the mainstream media. In Florida, they said that there was a don't say gay bill. That wasn't even in the bill, but the media pushed it and they've never gone back to correct that. So much disinformation has been called information and, all mixed up. So big money goes back really far. It goes through all of the media. You can see here how all of these people leading main media outlets are connected to influential organizations, Council on Foreign Relations, CFR, Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg meetings. If you haven't looked into these organizations before, I suggest that you do. It may start to answer some of the questions for you as to really, who are they? Who are they that's pulling the strings? And I'm not leaving out China in this either, as in the Chinese Communist Party, because they very much have bought into these media outlets as well, and social media as well, and US government as well. There is a lot of big money collusion going on. The real victim here, I love this image. The real victim of censorship is personal responsibility. Those who agree with the censorship, we're basically giving over our rights, our free will to someone else to decide. That's why what DHS is doing, instead of securing our borders, focusing on policing information and free thinking, is really harmful for a society. It's very much a socialist agenda. And where does that lead us? It leads us to an image like this. That's a pretty horrible image when you look at it, but that's the reality, where people keep getting closed off. It's really 1984 stuff, if you've read George Orwell's book, 1984. So there is a wall that's been created through the collusion between big tech, big government, big media equals big money. This wall, if you're feeling some sort of distance between you and other people in society, in the culture, this wall exists. You notice that we're not all talking about the same stories. You cannot talk to some people about these stories in the same way that you may talk to others, because we don't have access to the same information. This has happened before. This isn't like the first time we've seen this happen. And the good thing is that we can actually learn from some examples in the past to see what we can do about it. You are watching the Today with Kay show. We're going to be right back. I'm Kay Rubacek. Are you interested in investing in gold to secure your finances? If you've been listening to any conservative podcast over the past few years, you would have heard plenty of ads for gold investment, and it is popular and it is important. And if you're thinking about it but haven't done it yet, there's still time. With the way the economy is looking right now, we need to do whatever we can to stay ahead of the coming recession. Now, I recommend you go and talk to Ira at ourgoldguy.com. Mention my name and he'll give you sound advice. Make your own opinion. Go to his website, ourgoldguy.com, and take a look at the articles he publishes there, the information he's putting out. See if it resonates with you. I think you'll be glad that you did, that you talked to him. Talk to Ira at ourgoldguy.com and see if he is someone you want to work with to invest in gold. So there's a media wall, right? You can feel it. You know that some locations, some cities, some states have such a strong media wall around them that the people there don't get that information. Imagine if that information had got through, say, in the 2020 election. If that wall wasn't there, we would have been in a really, really different situation. Now, right now, that wall still exists. But as more and more people chip away at this wall, things change. Remember this? Remember the Berlin Wall? Take a look at how it worked. This is the distance that they had to put between the people to block information. The Berlin Wall existed for decades until people finally broke it down. And yet there was a lot of geopolitical things happening that assisted in the falling of the wall, but the people played a really, really big part in it. The people on the free side built ladders and stairs to look over the wall. People were doing everything they could to give the people inside the wall, who were blocked from the rest of the world, who had no access to information. They had a media blackout. They had a physical wall up in front of them that was stopping them from getting out. There was people who died trying to get across the wall. They were shot dead. There was a man, a 20-year-old, left to just bleed out and die on the wall. You know, the power of people. People did what they could. They painted the wall. They tried to get information across. There was a lot who did nothing, but there were people who kept going and they had hope. There were people like my family, my husband's family. They escaped former Czechoslovakia when the Berlin Wall was up, because they just could never imagine that the Berlin Wall would ever fall. It was too formidable. There were so many people like that who just thought it was impossible that communism and the Berlin Wall would fall in their lifetime. But it did. It fell. And people didn't give up. Last year was the first time I got to touch a piece of the Berlin Wall. And I was pretty excited about that because it really meant a lot for me. But I didn't even realize that there was a piece sitting right in New York City on public display. It wasn't just one. There was actually a few pieces at different places. So I went and I made a short documentary about it for NTD Television and Epoch TV. I'll play you a short clip here. My goodness me. I am touching the Berlin Wall, a piece of the Berlin Wall from Germany.
Such a narrow line between freedom on one side and socialism, communism on the other side.
Oh my goodness, you're right. This is a thin line between freedom and slavery. It's a strong line, but it's a thin line. I've always seen the Berlin Wall as a symbol of communism. It was built to divide the people of Germany, those who were forced to live under Soviet communism terror on the east side, and those who lived free on the west. This man, Terry Noir, was an artist who painted the west side of the wall, the freedom side, during those terrifying times.
Les gens dans la rue, ils me reprochaient de peindre des belles couleurs sur le mur pour les touristes.
He says here in French, people on the street accused me of painting nice colours on the wall to turn it into a tourist attraction. I told them that's impossible, because even if you apply tons of paint onto the wall, it will never be beautiful. This is a wall which killed about 130 people and which put people into prison for years and years. The wall was smashed in 1989 when Soviet communism collapsed and those captive under communism were freed. Now, some memorials for some of the murdered exist. And pieces of the wall still stand as a reminder of the terror of communism. But have we forgotten? Have we forgotten? Yeah, have we forgotten? I hope not. There's another wall that we can learn from that has not fallen down yet. It is the so-called Great, the Great Firewall of China. Anything but great. The Chinese Communist Party loves using the word great to describe awful things like the Great Famine that killed 45 million innocent Chinese citizens during supposed peace times. No, communists just keep using these euphemisms that they just cover up for lies and murder. The Great Firewall of China is only great because it's huge. It is far greater than the actual Great Wall of China. When you know how it works, you can actually do something about it. When you can name something, you can do something about it. Right now, we're not naming the wall a wall here because we cannot see it. We don't have a physical Berlin Wall up around all of us that we can paint and draw on. And in China, they have computers. They know their tech is sort of breaking down their ability to access information, but it's not just that. Their media completely controls them as well. And that's what we're facing here. So it's kind of this very large, big sphere of a wall. But if you look at China, people have found ways to break through the Chinese Communist Party's Great Firewall. There are VPNs, there are anti-jamming systems. People have done some really, really amazing stuff to break through the firewall. The technology that computer experts, engineers, and hackers that have come up with. It's just fantastic. And it's working. It has helped so many millions of Chinese people to break through and get access to real information. It's happening every day, and it's been happening for a while. That causes massive change. It also makes the Chinese regime extremely vulnerable and sensitive. So when you see them kind of going crazy with lockdowns and things like that, it's usually when they're most vulnerable and when people are getting access, because people are getting access to truth, which is the biggest weapon against tyranny that's built on lies. But people are using VPNs and they're bypassing the Great Firewall of China. So it's not like the Berlin Wall. You cannot just smash it down with a hammer. You cannot just paint it with some graffiti and make a statement. You got to do something else. So there's been a lot of ingenuity. The global internet versus the Chinese, it's the CCP internet. It's not a Chinese net. We've got to stop calling China Chinese right now. It's the Chinese people are being beholden to the Chinese Communist Party. It's the CCP net. They run it, not the Chinese people. So the CCP net has, there's these tech ways that these amazing hackers have used to break into the firewall. It works. It really works. The CCP is so afraid. Like literally, they are so afraid of people tapping into the internet that they have hundreds of thousands of people trying constantly policing the internet. They are putting so much resources. It's not sustainable. Their security measures really aren't sustainable. But people got to be creative. You've really got to get creative and find ways for people to break down these walls. What if we don't? Look what happened to Hong Kong. Hong Kong was a beacon of hope for the people of China, and then it fell to the CCP. We let them have it. And now the firewall has taken over Hong Kong as well. Hong Kong is not the place that it used to be. So there's a big tech, big government, big media, big money wall trying to split our culture, trying to divide and conquer our people, our minds, our brains, our society. Look at what The Intercept says here with their findings. The inherently subjective nature of what constitutes disinformation provides a broad opening for DHS officials to make politically motivated determinations about what constitutes dangerous free speech. This is what the CCP has done in China. They weaponize, they politicize every aspect of society. It doesn't matter which department of the government or the party or an organization, it has been politicized in China. All businesses have been politicized in China. Yes, you can say you're doing business in China, but you are still indirectly following the CCP's rules. If you step outside those rules immediately, you're going to know it. You are going to know it. And that politicization that already exists, it doesn't start once you step outside the rules. It's there already. Once you step outside, you feel it. And that's what people are waking up to here, that politicization that socialism, communism, Marxism requires of a nation. It is part of the mandate. They must politicize the entire state. The love for the party comes above everything in a socialist country. So DHS has been politicized, weaponized. Don't be surprised. This is the intentions of the international socialist movement and big money working together. They can make a lot more money through big government than they can in the free market. So a lot of this comes down to, ideology, sure, but not everyone's doing it for ideology. They're doing it for the money, selling out their values and selling out us. So key takeaways from the Intercept report. If you haven't read it, please read it. So the DHS, the FBI, and several media entities have been meeting bi-weekly as recently as August, maybe even up to this week. Who knows? But we definitely know as recently as August. This is fact that you can prove through this report. You can start sharing this information with people and talking about it. Even if you just read the key takeaways in the boxes on this report, that's going to give you a really good insight and give you tools to talk to others to really help us identify this wall that has been putting in between us and trying to separate us from our culture and break down our society. Interesting. the FBI agent who primed social media platforms to take down the Hunter Biden laptop story has continued to have a role in DHS policy discussions. So people in the DHS that are carrying this out, they're working in a bubble. They've got their own walls in their mind that make them feel justified in doing this. They think they're doing the right thing. They're not looking at this from an American values perspective. They're looking at this from a socialist perspective. And when people are beholden to the socialist ideology, that's how they think. Then they can justify building a Berlin brick wall, or building a great Chinese firewall through the internet, or building a great media wall here in the US. This is how they think. And we have to help others see through that. Like, first just to recognize the wall, and then figure out how to break it down. So never underestimate your own power is the first step of my new ebook, which is called Nowhere Left to Run, 10 Steps to Survive Tyranny Today. You can download that for free from my website, krubacek.com. That's KAYRUBACEK.com. Never underestimate your own power. You really have the power in your hands to make positive change in your home, in your family, in your community, in your greater society. If you want to do so, if you have the ability, do it. You have a civic duty as an American citizen. That's what this nation is founded upon, is personal responsibility and accountability. You have to pay for freedom some way. You pay for it in advance, or you get tyranny. It's a lot harder to get freedom back at that point. But never give up. Look at these guys. Never underestimate your own power. This is the Berlin Wall. They found a way. They didn't give up. They succeeded. Communism didn't disappear with the Berlin Wall, but freedom came to the people of East and West Germany, and they celebrated. You have a heck of a lot of power in your hands as an individual, as a human being. You can do so much. So don't be worn down by the media wall. Identify it, recognize it, talk about it, help break through it, help others see through it as well. If we don't have this media wall in place, then we would actually have free information. That's really fundamental to getting freedom of information, which leads to free thinking, which is what we were given at birth. What a miraculous gift. You've been watching the Today with Kay show. Thank you for tuning in. Please do the like, subscribe, reviews and all of that stuff, and sharing whatever platform you're listening to this on or watching on. If it's Apple Podcasts, please click the 5-star review button. I really appreciate that. 5 stars helps the algorithm show this show to more people. If you do the 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever star reviews, it gets to less people. So don't bother with those. I would never be offended. Thanks for tuning in and watching this show with me and spending your time with me. I appreciate you so much, and I'm looking forward to talking with you again soon.